Have you ever wondered why you keep falling into the same patterns, making the same mistakes and feeling trapped in cycles of suffering? What you feel isn't random. Obsessive thoughts, emotional scarcity, an invisible cycle that keeps you trapped without you even realizing it. But what if the root of the problem wasn't in the outside world, but within you? Carl Jung uncovered a powerful mechanism within the human mind, and it might be sabotaging you without you even knowing it. And today, you're going to see what has been hidden all along, because Jung's shadow work reveals why you fail. Stay with me. You'll never see your mind the same way again. Have you ever felt like certain thoughts just won't leave you alone? Like your mind is stuck on one person, one moment, or one emotion, going in circles with no way out? It might seem like a coincidence, but in reality, it's not. What makes us get trapped in obsessive thoughts? What's behind this constant need to revisit a memory, a face, or a conversation? And more importantly, does this have more to do with the other person or with something deep inside us? Carl Jung, one of the greatest scholars of the human psyche, believed that our thoughts aren't just thoughts. They're coded messages from our unconscious, echoes of parts of ourselves we avoid looking at directly. When someone constantly occupies our mind, more often than not, we're not really seeing that person. We're seeing a reflection of our own shadow. In Jungian psychology, the shadow represents everything we repress: hidden desires, deep insecurities, emotional wounds. The more we deny these aspects of ourselves, the more they project onto the outside world. The result? We latch onto people and situations that, in reality, are just mirroring what we need to heal within. And this is where the Hermetic Laws come in. If the universe is mental and everything vibrates, as these laws teach, then the energy we carry in our minds shapes our reality. This means obsessive thoughts aren't just a passing annoyance. They're a clear sign that something within us needs to be transformed. Today, we're going to dive into how mental obsession is directly linked to emotional scarcity, and how we can use Jung's wisdom and the Hermetic Laws to reprogram our minds, raise our vibration, and finally break free from this cycle. So tell me, are you ready to face your shadow and transform your reality? If there's something within us that silently influences our choices, emotions, and even thought patterns, it's the shadow. Carl Jung described the shadow as the repressed part of our psyche, everything we try to hide, deny, or avoid. But ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. On the contrary, the more we try to suppress our fears, insecurities, and hidden desires, the more they show up in unexpected ways. And one of those ways is mental obsession. When someone takes over our thoughts intensely and continuously, it's a sign that something within us is crying out for attention. More often than not, we're not obsessed with the person themselves, but with what they represent to our unconscious mind. Think of someone you just can't get out of your head. What does this person awaken in you? It could be a desire for validation, a sense of security, or even an unconscious reminder of an emotional bond from the past. Whatever the answer, this mental attachment is a direct reflection of your shadow. This is where the law of correspondence comes into play. As within, so without. If we carry an unrecognized emotional void, our mind projects that emptiness onto something external. If there's a part of ourselves we refuse to face, it will find a way to express itself, often in the form of obsession over someone. But here's the crucial point. What we repress doesn't disappear. It just finds other ways to surface. And if we're not paying attention, these manifestations can trap us in cycles of frustration, emotional dependency, and self-sabotage. The good news? Once we recognize this pattern, we can start to break free from it. But to do that, we need to take the next step. Understanding the role of emotional scarcity and how it fuels our obsessive thoughts. There's a subtle trap that keeps many people stuck in obsessive thoughts: the belief that they desperately need someone to feel complete. This is the cycle of emotional scarcity. It all starts with an inner void, a sense of lack that feels impossible to fill on your own. Then comes the search for something or someone to ease that feeling, as if this person were the missing piece in the puzzle of your life. And for a moment, this illusion seems to work. But soon, reality sets in. The obsession grows, anxiety increases, and what once felt like a connection turns into a mental maze you can't escape from. What's really happening here? The answer lies in the law of vibration. Everything in the universe operates at a specific energetic frequency, including our thoughts and emotions. When we vibrate at the frequency of lack, we send out a clear signal to the universe. I am not enough on my own. And the universe, responding to that frequency, reflects back experiences that reinforce that exact belief. Mental obsession is nothing more than a mirror of this vibrational state. The more we believe we need something external to feel whole, the more we become dependent on that illusion. And the more dependent we become, the further we drift from the real solution, finding within ourselves what we've been seeking outside. But here's something interesting. What happens when we stop chasing something so desperately? More often than not, what once seemed out of reach starts moving toward us. This happens because by raising our vibration, we shift our relationship with what we desire. And that's the secret to breaking free from obsession and turning emotional scarcity into self-sufficiency. However, to truly break this cycle, we need to understand how our shadow and emotional scarcity work together to keep us trapped in repetitive patterns. And that brings us to the next step in this journey. See how everything starts within you? And how small shifts in your perception can completely change the way you feel. If this content is already helping you see things differently, take a second to leave a like. That way, YouTube recognizes the value of this knowledge and recommends it to more people who need to hear it too. Now, if this dynamic is operating so subtly within your mind, could it be that your own shadow is guiding you toward choices that keep leading to failure? Let's dive deeper and find out. Many people believe that failure in relationships, professional life, or even personal growth is just a matter of bad luck or destiny. But the truth is, these patterns aren't coincidences. They are direct reflections of what we carry inside, specifically, the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. The law of mentalism teaches us that everything in the universe is a manifestation of the mind. This means that the way we perceive the world and the experiences we attract are shaped by the hidden contents of our unconscious. If our mind is filled with deep-seated beliefs about rejection, abandonment, or unworthiness, those beliefs will inevitably show up in our reality. And here's the biggest issue. Most of these beliefs aren't conscious. They're buried in the shadow. Every time we avoid facing our pain, insecurities, and fears, we give them more power to operate in the background, silently shaping our choices and experiences. The result? A cycle of failure that keeps repeating itself. We attract relationships where we feel rejected, situations where we feel undervalued, and opportunities that always seem just out of reach. The unconscious mind is constantly seeking confirmation of what it believes to be true, even when that truth is harmful to us. And what's even more interesting is that this cycle follows a predictable rhythm. It aligns with the law of rhythm, which teaches that everything in the universe moves in cycles, rising and falling like the tides. Just like that, our emotions and behavioral patterns follow a constant flow. Without realizing it, many people fall into a repetitive loop. They fall deeply in love, become dependent on the other person's attention, start fearing abandonment, and when the relationship ends, they feel even emptier than before. But there is a way out. Once we become aware of this cycle and make the decision to break it, we create the opportunity to completely transform our reality. The first step is to identify how the shadow is influencing our emotions and behaviors. The second step is to use practical techniques to integrate these repressed aspects and reframe our experiences. Recognizing that we're trapped in a cycle of emotional scarcity and obsession is just the first step. The real power lies in breaking that pattern and transforming our mind and energy. To do this, we can combine Carl Jung's teachings with the Hermetic Laws in practical, everyday techniques. One of the most effective methods is the Hermetic Mirror exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down all the qualities you admire in the person you're obsessed with. What exactly attracts you to them? Is it their intelligence, confidence, kindness? Now stop and reflect. These qualities already exist within you, but they may be repressed in your shadow. More often than not, what we admire in others is something we have neglected or haven't fully developed in ourselves. The moment you recognize that you already possess these qualities, the obsession loses its grip, and the need to seek outside what's already within begins to dissolve. Another powerful technique comes from the law of polarity. Every negative emotion has a positive counterpart that can be consciously accessed. Whenever an obsessive thought arises, instead of fighting it, shift its polarity. If your mind tells you, "I need this person to be happy," transform it into, "I am whole and happy on my own." This simple mental reprogramming, done repeatedly, changes your vibrational field and distances you from emotional dependency. When we're done here, make sure to check out the video at the end. It builds on everything we've discussed so far and dives even deeper, showing you how to apply these ideas in a practical and lasting way. But before you move on to this next discovery, I want to know, what was your biggest insight from this video? Share it in the comments. Your experience might help someone else see something they hadn't noticed before. And since we're on this journey together, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can keep receiving content that truly makes a difference in your growth. Now, pay close attention, because we've reached the turning point. Up until now, you've understood how your mind might be sabotaging you, but now it's time to take action. Let's break this cycle in practice and turn this knowledge into real power. But what about when obsession becomes overwhelming, dominating your thoughts? In this case, the best strategy is vibrational transmutation. Whenever you catch yourself immersed in thoughts about someone, stop for a moment and practice the 4-7-8 Hermetic breathing technique. Inhale deeply for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7 seconds, and exhale slowly for 8 seconds. As you do this, visualize your shadow integrating, as if you're absorbing all the energy you've projected onto the other person and bringing it back to yourself. This technique not only calms the mind, but also strengthens your presence and connection to the present moment. Finally, a symbolic approach can be highly effective: the energy closure ritual. Take a piece of paper and write the name of the person you're obsessed with, along with all the emotions this obsession brings up in you. Then, burn the paper, watching the smoke rise and carry those feelings away. In place of that void, visualize a golden light filling your being, bringing peace, strength, and self-sufficiency. This ritual activates the law of rhythm, closing an energetic cycle and creating space for a new, healthier vibration to enter. By consistently applying these techniques, you'll start to notice something interesting. Obsessive thoughts will fade, emotional scarcity will dissolve, and in their place, you'll feel a growing sense of balance and personal power. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but each step you take in this direction strengthens your connection to your true self. So now, do you feel ready to take a definitive step toward emotional freedom? Now you understand why certain thoughts seem to never go away. They're not just random coincidences or signs that you should keep chasing something that no longer makes sense. These thoughts are echoes of your own shadow, calling your attention to repressed aspects that need to be recognized and integrated. What once felt like an unexplained obsession now reveals itself as an invitation to self-awareness. The unconscious mind isn't working against you. On the contrary, it's simply trying to show you what has been ignored. And this is exactly why the real solution is never outside of you. It's always within. The Hermetic Laws teach us that the universe is mental, that everything vibrates, and that what is within is reflected in what is outside. When you change the way you see yourself, the reality around you inevitably shifts as well. What once felt impossible to overcome dissolves. What once seemed like an uncontrollable need transforms into freedom. But this transformation requires a choice. You can keep repeating the same patterns, allowing your mind to be dominated by scarcity and attachment, or you can choose to take control, apply the knowledge you've gained here, and finally break free from this invisible prison. The path of evolution isn't about avoiding pain. It's about understanding it and using it as a catalyst for growth. If you've made it this far, you've already taken a major step. The question now is, are you ready to go further and completely transform the way you relate to your mind and emotions? The answer is yours to decide.